another episode of PR Society Delhi's Gen Next Ideas Exchange series, the official body of young PR professionals, where professionals from the PR world come and talk about opportunities and challenges in the PR sector. Unlike some corporate functions such as legal and finance, the communication or the PR function does not have as its primary mission fulfilling specific regulatory or compliance requirements. So, as a result, what happens is that the PR function is really organized in a uniform fashion and it varies from one organization to the next. Similar sized organizations can vary widely in the resources and also in the number of employees devoted to communication. Also, reporting relationships and functional responsibilities, they differ depending on the nature of the company. Companies that sell their products to other businesses rather than directly to consumers, they may have similar needs from time to time, but they are usually on a much smaller scale. Whereas some industries, other industries such as fashion, entertainment, packaged goods, and travel, they place a greater emphasis on communication than those with longer selling cycles, such as construction, manufacturing, and engineering. Likewise, newer fields such as computing also tend to rely more on public relations and social media programs than through traditional advertising channels. And that's why today we thought of focusing on the role of industry bodies such as CII, FICCI, and PhD Chamber, because these bodies are very important in policy making. These bodies, provide assistance to government. They provide information on exports. They do a lot of events, where we have foreign business delegates. There is arbitration, there is B2B solutions, auditing, a lot of things are there. And without wasting any further time, I would like to invite today's speaker, Dr. Jitendra Singh ji. Sir, welcome, and thank you for joining and taking out time from your schedule in joining us. Dr. Jitendra Singh ji is a PhD and a MBA. He has also done a Masters of Labor Management. Sir's core competencies include public policy advocacy, government relations and regulatory affairs, business development, tourism, education, innovation, startups, IT. Sir is currently posted as director at PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry, New Delhi. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Shubham, for this introduction. And at the outset, I am thankful to PR Society Delhi for having me in this very important platform, the virtual platform, and that too on a Sunday, noon time where normally people take a, relaxation. People are normally, somewhat, they try to actually unwind on Sundays, afternoon. But bringing me on this important platform with galaxy of domain experts from PR and communication. Medium, I'm sure that I'll be more, wiser after an hour after, I interact with the domain experts and the leaders of communication strategies and PR. And in fact, I also like said initially that I need to be involved in a two-way communication rather than a single monologue, so that we are actually able to understand the perspective of others also, because I believe that there has to be cross pollination of ideas, and once we are more.
So, carrying the session forward, sir, without wasting any further time, I think we can start. Sir, we want to know why is PR so important, and how does PhD Chamber do PR on a daily basis? I mean, as a corporate organization, you can start by addressing this, and then further we can go ahead. I would also like to request the audience to please post their questions in the chat box, which we can take later on. So please.
Shubham, I hope I am audible, right?
Yes,
I
sir.
don't like how somewhat connection breaks, right? So in fact, initially you set the right tone in terms of the PR methodologies, the strategies, because as you rightly said that some companies focus more on communication, some companies focus more on sort of a social media integration. The point is that we have to see from the perspective whether the company is in B2B segment or B2C or B2G segment. So depending on this trilogy, whether I am in like B2C or B2B or B2G, the entire communication strategy, the entire PR strategy actually, takes a different perspective altogether. For example, if I'm something like maybe some fashion item wherein it's a daily use item, then immediately I have to have more social media integration. My PR has to be more broad focused, covering more numbers. Vis-a-vis in B2G segment, my focus has to be, my PR has to be totally, involved, wherein I can showcase some social responsibility of business to the government stakeholders, because they are my customers. Similarly, in B2B segment, our PR strategies, they focus totally on business needs, their own wants, and how the businesses actually understand the perspective of other businesses, particularly if we talk of sustainable development, because we have seen that B2B segment markets, their PR strategies are more focused on developing the sustainability reporting, going for some sort of some sort of intervention wherein there are some footprints of sustainable development goals in their entire working process. That's how they are able to actually woo the other B2B platforms also. And as you said, like, why PR is important, first of all, as you also said that PR basically, what PR does actually, PR actually, it is far more important than portraying only the positive image of the organization. As we know that it anchors the mission of the organization, even the vision of the organization, what are the operating principles, what are even the tactics of an organization. The PR also goes beyond programs, beyond services, even beyond products also, and it encompasses everything, which even includes the reputation of the organization, the culture of the organization, the core values of the organization. And as such, normally it is said it is not simply advertising or marketing. In fact, I have seen many novices, they get, their misconceptions that PR is more of a marketing strategy. PR is entirely a different ball game altogether, which has that holistic footprints in order to make the marketing efforts more strategic, and advertising and branding efforts more and more narrowing. So PR actually encompasses the entire, starting from the leadership of the organization, even recognizing that the brand is personified by the CEO or by the the promoters of the organization, and the entire managerial team down to the staff level also. And another thing that we have seen, like of late, since we interact with a lot of industries, the innovation is taking a front seat in all the PR exercises. And how this is done, in fact, we have seen a lot of evidences, even in post-COVID also, that there's a lot of sharing of ideas, even sharing of responsibilities, even companies that are taking risks in terms of even forgetting their top line and bottom line, and actually doing something good for their own employees, and even continuing with their CSR activity even during the COVID era also. Right, no issues, no, it happens sometimes. And the important thing is, like, normally when we are talking like what PR is all about, and even like how we have to interpret it in terms of the type of organization, like we say, like beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Similarly, public relations is also in the eye of the beholder. And that we have seen, like, even as an industry association, we are dealing with, our stakeholders basically, our own members, which is the total, the corporate base. Then our another stakeholder is the government, and through our foundations, the most important stakeholders are our civil society. So in fact, we are encompassing the entire gamut of this universe in terms of our stakeholders. Therefore, the PR exercises from chambers perspective, or what all recommendations even we give to our industry members also, what should be their PR strategy in this COVID, even like now we are entering the post COVID era also to some extent. So these are the things that basically are told that PR, it gives the legs and life to the brand attitudes. And also what we are doing now, this media business is totally evolving, and the business environment, in fact, it is totally seen as a new fountainhead for innovation, even for risk taking capabilities. In fact, there's a lot of testing that has been done of the organizations, whether the organizations are only looking for profit making, or there is also that humane element in the organization. So this COVID has taught each and every one that, for example, if I'm working in an organization, my organization is a big profit making entity. if the organization is not taking care of its employees during the time of the need, it means the entire, you can say, the philosophy of the organization takes a big hit. So what we do, like, in this important era when there's increasing social consciousness for people, for all the stakeholders, you consider this maybe as the consumers or maybe like civil society or government, and these are the people who in fact are placing more emphasis on what an organization is about rather than simply what that organization produce in the form of services or what are the products it is manufacturing. And now we are seeing that companies are beginning to realize that paying attention to the long term perspective, to the perceptions of the company, and to the social consequences of their products is a good business. And now, as we see, like the proliferation of 24 by 7 media, like the television channels and all these niche magazines, even like the blog posts, and we have a lot of podcasts that's given by the people also after they use any product or service. So this has resulted in exponential growth of the entire the PR exercise, and organizations now have no place to hide. In fact, there's lot of opportunity for the organization while investing indirectly or directly by buying the companies. So I was going through this Harris Research Report recently. It has revealed that the companies in the top 200 of Fortune's most admired companies list, they spend twice as much on the public relations as in the bottom 200. So you can see, like, this post-COVID event, and in this, probably in this COVID era also, the PR is actually going to be a different ball game altogether. And this has been seen presently also, the type of blog posts people put, the type of messages, the type of social media messages we get now, like starting from Twitter, now people going to Koo, and now to different platforms. There's a lot of hegemony that has been seen by big companies that is gradually broken by the startups also. The emerging technologies have totally taken the front seat, and in fact now we have to get ourselves prepared to see that PR has to be linked with more of the social consequences of a product or service rather than a brand making or a marketing activity. So this is like from my side in terms of what associations are doing at this point in time, in terms of recommending organizations that considering the soft infrastructure as a priority, which actually includes the human capital, the this is from my side in terms of what industry associations are doing in terms of giving recommendations to the industry that the soft part of their entire ecosystem. When I'm talking of entire ecosystem, it's about whether they are making products or services, what are their marketing, branding, or selling techniques. It has to be integrated in a wider sense, seeing the social consequences, and in fact focusing more on the soft infrastructure rather than the hard infrastructure per se. So this is from my side. Yeah, Shubham.
Sir, you have written two books also on success and tips to success. PR does not automatically drive sales. So, how does PR actually drive sales? Or if you would like to share any experience from your organization, any good PR success or any.
Yeah, sure. No, in fact, it's a very important question that how PR drives sales, and as a industry association, what we have done. Now, Shubham, what we see normally, the like whenever any organization is making any PR strategy, so most of the strategies they are linked with the strategies of the competitors. What is the PR plan of the competitors? How the public perception is being built by the competitors, and how people are responding to all those stuff. Now, what we have seen that we have to go a step ahead in terms of what all new things we can do, what new innovations we can put in our PR strategies, so that we are looked as a different entity rather than probably in the rat race of understanding the strategies of our competitors, and also how to actually work upon or how to give the extended versions of the strategies or the PR exercises our competitors are doing. So, in fact, we have seen that some of the innovations, for example, like telling some credible stories and providing support for the truth of any company's advertising images, going more deeper, actually, touch that the EQ part of the people, of the stakeholders, and this actually, helps for a wide variety of, purposes in organizational communications, and that's how the company should be represented. For example, in our own organization we have our own PhD, Family Welfare Foundation and Rural Development Foundation, which actually do the CSR activities of the employees. And normally, initially, what we used to do, we used to portray all good practices these foundations are doing. But of late, what we are doing, we are actually taking the bites from the actual the consumers of that particular product, whether it's a water harvesting system or whether it's a scaling for the Paralympics. And once the the version comes from the end users, once the version comes from the horse's mouth itself, it actually builds a perception among public that it's the real story. So what we see, like we have followed a strategy that the strategy of any PR has to be more broad based. It has to be two-way rather than one way. And in fact, there's a lot of fallacy that PR is all about, attracting best of the people in your organization, writing, some rosy pictures of the organization, but in fact, doing little things, doing some innovative things, wherein we're actually able to make people realize the social consequences of the organization that actually, that actually raises more eyeballs. And the quantification we have done, because we keep a track on all the, sort of statistical data. Also, we have a media analytics team. And we have seen like changing the strategy for the last 3 months in terms of our numbers in electronic media, even in print media, that has increased 3 times more as compared to what we were getting 3 months back. So these are some of the strategies we have done. And now you said like how PR actually increases the sales. Now, what we have seen that public relations actually it gives the legs and life to a brand, attitudes, and also it provides support about what is the nuanced understanding of that particular brand. So the most important thing is that now we are looking that market is transitioning to a consumer-driven conversation economy. It's not like the organization is sending its own version in through different stories or through different press releases. Now there is more consumer driven conversation economy, which is characterized by two-way conversations between the consumers and between the consumer and the organization. So this is a new thing that is manifested in the last 4 5 years, and this is actually changing the entire landscape of PR. And this is definitely companies who are focusing on this strategy are actually making more profits as compared to companies who are not doing. And as I told you that there's a lot of increased social consciousness among consumers also, and these consumers now they place more emphasis on what organization is all about rather than simply what the organization is doing. And also, as we know that most of the organizations they are using PR as a weapon for one of the most important thing in terms of in terms of basically presenting some of the important facts and quotes that actually support the ideal positions of the organization, and also like taking views from the consumers and how they relate to that particular brand is actually more meaningful rather than one way conversation that used to happen. And as I've told you that the top Fortune 500 companies, 200 companies, they are spending twice money as compared to the lower companies. So you can actually see this particular research or statistics gives an entire sort of thorough understanding that PR is definitely going to be a game changer for driving sales and growth for any company.
Thank you, sir. Sir, PhD Chamber comes under Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Sometimes, as PR professionals, we have to see that news shared has to be newsworthy after all. So, what do you think? Is the role of spin doctors? The role of spin doctors here precisely. what is the role of spin doctors in PR? If you can just highlight.
Okay. So first of all, I want to make clear, Shubham, that PhD Chamber is not a part of Ministry of Commerce. We are an autonomous of Section 8 organization. We do work with Ministry of Commerce and Industry very, sort of thoughtfully doing many of the interventions. We also work with other ministries also, and we are a separate, we are a not-for-profit Section 8 company. And you asked about this, spin doctors. As we know that there is a lot of, spinning of the, PR that's taking place with the polishing of the truth. And there's a lot of interpretation of information which is meant to sway public opinion. And in fact, this is definitely a derogatory term in PR space, which is, interpreted by professionals as, meaning which is blatant deceit and manipulation. Now, many organizations, probably I'll say like fly-by-night operators or organizations that have short-term vision, they are using this spin doctor PR as a weapon for their capitalist deception. And the best way to resist is to become more media literate and to use more of this your critical thinking when you are interpreting the various mediated messages. And as we know that the spin doctors, they selectively they present facts and quotes that support the ideal positions, or there's a lot of cherry picking that happens, which is the non denial. And in a way they presume that the unproven truths is a lot of euphemisms for drawing attention away from the items that is considered distasteful, and there's a lot of ambiguity in public statements. We have seen like many organizations that are actually destroying our environment, destroying water, our resources. They use a lot of such statements as their PR tool in order to woo people that they are actually working towards the triple bottom line that is known as people, planet, and profit. But that is in fact, as I told you, we need to be more critical thinkers. We need to understand the nuances of that particular PR exercise to actually make the that story unfold itself so that the truth gets naked in front of everybody. So the spin doctors or so-called, in particularly, like we are seeing a lot of political activism taking place by the spin doctors. So I'm sure that media literate people who have a lot of gray cells in terms of understanding what is the the fact about what is the narrative that is being trying to be created by so-called the spin doctors. I'm sure that these things will die their own death within few days, or maybe like within few months.
Sir, success is not easy. It doesn't look easy for a company. Nowadays, there are various risks for companies also. I mean, it is not very easy. Even, you have been, one of your competencies, you have been working with startups. So I wanted to know, we wanted to know that PR tactics, how they are a powerful ally for any startup, like for startup companies also, which are emerging. How important is PR tactics for startup companies?
See, startups, as we know, normally they, again, startups we have to consider like at what scale they are. We even there are some unicorns also which are considered as startups, but they are no more startups. And these unicorns are spending, lakhs of rupees on their PR also. And as we know, that unicorn is any startup that acquires market capitalization of $1 billion becomes a unicorn. But I'm talking of now at this stage, the early stage startups. And as we know that startups are normally one of the important elements that is lacked in them is basically the finances. And as we know that the startups are normally, they're driven by a lot of passion. There's a lot of devotion, discipline, a lot of persistence and perseverance for any startup to flourish. And as we know that more of these startups are basically they are the tech startups. They are like there are a lot of e-commerce startups. After this COVID, we have a lot of health tech startups and all also like agreed startups that have come into being. And we have seen since we have at PhD Chamber we have a mission of creating 100 unicorns by 2025. And in this entire journey, like we are giving, we have seen that the startups that are using innovative PR exercises are actually doing wonders in terms of their growth and also in terms of their longevity. And as we know, the statistics says that around out of 10, it's only one or two startups that actually sees its life after 3 years. Most of the startups, they die their own death. So startups, what they are doing, what we have seen that particularly in terms of studying the emotional quotient of a person. Some of the startups, for example, I don't want to take any example on this public platform, but probably some of the agri startups we have seen that they are using farmers as their brand ambassadors in order to spread the message. So instead of the film personality or any celebrity endorsing a product, if the farmers themselves are they are endorsing their product, and even we have seen to the extent some of the some of the social startups, they're actually their brand ambassadors are the beggars who are on the streets, and they are endorsing these their services that this startup they actually change their life in like within a span of 6 months time. So these innovative tools and techniques which is used by startups actually can give them a push, because PR is more about strategy, it's more about innovation, it's more about diverse thinking and having inclusivity, because as we know that until unless there's inclusion element in the PR exercise, it normally it becomes a single-edged sort of a sword. So for startups, we have seen that startups that are flourishing, startups who are soon unicorns, or you can say soonicorns, that are in the journey of becoming unicorns, are actually using many innovative tools and techniques in order to create that positive sentiment about the products or services these startups are offering.
Thank you, sir. Sir, post-COVID, we have seen corporate organizations, they have done a lot of webinars, a lot of things on Atmanirbhar Bharat, and a lot of webinars on COVID. And also, this was a phase, this was a time when CSR, HR, and PR, they have kind of overlapped. So I mean, we wanted to know that how do you see CSR, the purview of CSR? डू यू थिंक हर कुछ जो कोविड में हम कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहे हैं क्या वो सब कुछ सीएसआर में आना चाहिए या सीएसआर एंड पीआर लाइक how do you see what is the way forward like for COVID?
Yeah, it's an excellent question, because when we are talking of CSR, normally we have a feeling that CSR can actually change the total landscape of the ill things in our country. In fact, if you see the entire CSR budget, that is close to 20,000 to 22,000 CR per year. And if you see the entire development budget of the organization for the development sector, it is more than 3 lakh crores. So the point is CSR is now it has totally evolved. In fact, in every engagement, we tell our industry members that part of their CSR activities should be towards innovative CSR practices, and also making collaborative commons. Now, when I'm talking of collaborative commons, we in fact always insist industry to join hand together, and using their core competencies can you can actually create a different model. For example, say companies like L&T, that is best in you can say project management and engineering. Then on the other hand, we have say Wipro. Wipro is best in IT. Then, for example, we have say ITC, that is best in logistics and supply chain. Similarly, for example, if we have say Byju's, that is best in the education. So if these four organizations join, pool their fund together for the CSR activity, and using their core competencies, these the activity, the model that will come out will actually be a totally invaluable model for any state department or government department to replicate. So the focus has to be on collaborative commons, and gone are the days when we used to work in silos. So if there's a concept of co-creation that actually comes within the industry for pooling the CSR funds, I'm sure that the innovative CSR practices can be a models which can be given to the government and even to other societies, also the state governments. And these models, these innovative CSR models or case studies can be replicated in order to make a more meaningful impact. And Shubham, as now we are seeing that the practice of corporate social responsibility has evolved and matured over time. Now, CSR also includes concepts like strategic philanthropy, as we have seen, like in the case of Wipro. We have also a concept of employee volunteerism, where the employees are giving their voluntarily, they are giving their time for doing some of the CSR projects. There's also a concept of cause marketing, or even disaster response or peer-to-peer fundraising. There's also concept like non-profit board service and even like the incorporating social responsibility into core business practices and offerings. Now, most of the organizations, like as we know that there's a lot of concept of sustainability nowadays, and even we have seen that government has also mandated that every companies they have to basically publish their sustainability report. In fact, SEBI has given guidelines that top 500 listed companies they have to publish their sustainability reports on their website. And these are nothing but actually they portray the business ethics of the organization. There are 9 principles of business responsibility reporting that goes in the sustainability report, and it actually tells about the moral guidelines for the conduct of the business, which is based on the notions like what is right, what is wrong, and what is fair. And now we have seen like most of the businesses now they rely on their own conscience in making business decisions, and they're falling back upon their own moral and religious backgrounds even for their guidance also. So we have seen that CSR over the years, it has become, the integral part of the business, ethics, and also the code of the conduct, which can be used as a guiding force for the managers while making, decisions in the company. So as we know that now CSR is no longer just writing checks or philanthropy, it has become a legislation from 2014 onwards. As we know, there's a section 135 of the Companies Act, which actually gives a broad base of CSR activities. And we have seen that these corporate leaders now they are aligning social impact and also employee engagement with business objectives. So now they are measuring results, and they're also ensuring that CSR and employee engagement efforts they demonstrate the real value to the company. And apart from the normal P&L audit, companies are actually going for social audit. So the CSR is actually becoming a broad based strategy for the companies to integrate their social conscious models in terms of their responsibility towards communities, responsibility towards the employees, and even responsibility towards their consumers. So it has totally gone a sea change now over the years. Now the CSR legislation is now close to 7 years old. Now it has evolved like anything, and we have seen like we are our country is way ahead in terms of CSR and strategic philanthropy that we have seen over the recent times.
So we have two questions in the chat box. I would like to take them, and I request you to please answer. The first question is, how do you go about building the brand per se? That is the Apex Body PhD chamber itself. What building strategies do you adopt?
Now in our PhD chamber, like we started with a concept that what is the mission of PhD chamber as such. And we have seen like over past years, as in developing economy, most of the companies we have seen becoming from, we normally our focus is more on the MSME segment, the micro, small, and medium enterprises. And also we have seen that how some of the SMEs they have become corporate giants within 1 or 2 decades itself. So after doing some sort of survey or talking to the decision makers one to one, we have seen that companies that have actually become more ethical, definitely they have grown by leaps and bounds. Therefore we started with our own tagline, ethics is good business. Just a small line, ethics is good business, actually is a harbinger, it's an example for other companies to replicate. Normally we have seen like as an industry you have a lot of chances to actually deviate from your normal working pattern. We have seen that companies going for tax evasions despite best of the laws, despite best of the corporate governance models, until unless every pattern or every conduct is done in letter and spirit, you cannot actually fulfill the entire obligations to your consumers, to the government, and to the society as such. So as a chamber, in terms of brand, we have actually unleashed our own sort of mission statements, and we have evolved over a period of time. And right now, as I've told you that ethics is a good business. This is our tagline, and we're trying to, dictate this to each and every member from time to time. And we're trying to sensitize them that the real essence for making a corporate giant, it has to be done in a ethical manner with properly, once we are forming entire code of conducts.
So we have one last question for the day. This is from Mr. Dhawan. How are you maintaining relations with policymakers and various other members?
So it's all about engagement with our members. We have different teams that are divided in terms of making relations with the government, with our members. For membership, we have a membership development committee, and the role of this committee is to actually attract, engage, and retain members. And in terms of engagement strategies, we have a strategy wherein after every like fortnight we give call to our members because our members are getting more than say 20, 25 emails every day, and most of them they're not able to see each and every email. So we do telecalling. Our member teams they do telecalling one to one. We build relation with them. We ask their issues, their challenges, their pain points. Although it's a big exercise, but we have seen that engaging with people one to one definitely it helps a lot. We have seen that most of the members normally they every year since we have a concept of annual membership, so the subscription of membership it's going year by year, and all the members there is a more than 98% retention rate that we are able to retain 98% members year over year because of this little exercise. Because we have seen that one to one engagement it's more about talking to people, it's more about maintaining that relationship. Otherwise in this entire gamut of digital media, that touch, that personal touch has actually gone for a hit. So we're trying to maintain this tradition, and this actually is giving us good results. And particularly with government, again this is through strategies with we have different 58 committees, and each and every committee is just linked with different ministries of government of India. And since we are in like 22 states also, our resident directors in each state, they ensure that they also talk to these principal secretaries of different departments of government, and in our head office also of different committees. For example, if there's a committee on say direct taxes, then we ensure that our people they talk with the respective joint secretaries even to the directors from time to time, so that that engagement matters keeps on growing and it keeps on moving forward.
Thank you, sir. I would now like to invite veteran PR member, Mr. G.S. Bawa, sir, to please give expert remarks on today's session.
Hello, everybody, and thank you, Dr. Saab. Dr. Jitendra Singh is a veteran and doing webinars and conducting meeting. Shubham is another veteran. And so, Shubham, thank you for really taking the mind out, which is not an easy thing. And Dr. Saab has got a full 360-degree experience so far as PR, communication, law, human relations, you name a subject which has not undergone through his. So that's very good of you, both of you. You have done a very good justice to the time slot being given. And we are blessed that Dr. Jitendra Singh has really touched upon some new paradigm which is evolving. And I was just thinking how to capture it. But then yesterday I was in some gathering, and there we were debating on the P and R of the PR. And then I was thinking only P is under debate. But now today, having listening you, I think the R has also come under a change. So different forms of R which I could note down is one is that you have to restart. So now public relations is not only relations, you have to restarting, and then you have to repair. You have to repair your relation, and whatever the repairing is needed, so you have to restart, you have to repair, and you have to reconfigure. After that, you have to reconfigure, and then you have to rethink. And I will keep on writing. There are many R's you have touched upon. And then in the end, you have to revive your relations, and you are revisit the whole PR. And in the end, you must reward. and without a reward, nothing works. So then this session has been very good. And another, Dr. Jitendra Singh has always believed that he has demonstrated action by doing. I recall he's an old friend and veteran in PhD chamber. I remember long, and there's a good. He very well said that there is a committee arrangement. There is a dedicated subject-wise committee. There are dedicated sector-wise committees. And I always used to pride. I remember Dr. Udesh Kohli. I used to go and visit him. And then being in civil aviation, I always used to feel proud. Ki, sir, how come in your function minister is always there? And in no function the officer of the level of less than the level of secretary was there, and one secretary comes, the 2 3 joint secretary used to be there. So then he said, Ki, nahi, Baba Sahab, this is a secret. I said, no, that secret you must disclose. So then he was telling that we have got a full-fledged PR department who takes care of that, and then how we manage. And I never knew Dr. Jitendra Singh is the man behind that. Thank you very much, sir. And then, yes, you rightly said business ethics are the key revolving which will be taken in the coming times. If anybody has to survive, ethics are the key important. And yes, size do matters. You rightly said that the new startup which are coming, everybody cannot afford PR. PR is not easy. PR is not very cheap. PR is expensive. You need to have a very senior person. You need to have very seasoned persons, and you also need to have the person who got a vision and mission of their own. Only they can draw a vision and mission of the organization corporate, and person like you only can do it. And yes, it is our duty now. As you said, it now we got a society, public relations society, Delhi chapter. That's what is our role. That everybody who cannot afford the PR, it is we together shall do and evolve a group, evolve a right kind of person, so that we should help them. So that's what we are thinking, that over a period of time, we shall be able to do some kind of industry help, some kind of peer-to-peer help, and of course, one-to-one, you rightly said, there's no dearth of knowledge which you have given, everything you have covered. And yes, there is a very prime question in my mind, which Shubham very rightly addressed already, that in the when the COVID had just started, and there were a lot of people, the debate was coming that, sir, you got a lot of money, why don't you spend that money in CSR? Money should be spent for COVID, etc. Then there were a lot of thoughts coming. There is a separate fund which should go to the welfare fund, and there is separate fund to the CSR fund. And you rightly said that we need a sort of a co-creation. That is the duty of the now industry veteran, that they should have a co-creation. The fund should not be wasted for petty gains, for addressing the issues which are sometimes some issues get carried over by the media, etc. It doesn't mean that you should spend that money. CSR is very important money, and that's why we should have a consolidation of funds. So industry should come together and they should address their problems through that fund. And I think everybody would have enriched from the knowledge which we have brought in. And anything specifically, Daman Saab, I think, wanted to say something. And Daman Saab is another veteran from the scope. He has seen the thing from the top. So we must give him, listen him something. Daman Saab?
I was anxious to know if you are conducting some research work also on various aspects like CSR, ethics, etc. And your data is based on those things to influence your members and policy makers.
Yes, sir, we have done research. In fact, we have made sustainability reports also, and we have some documents also that actually it has showcased, because one of the important aspects we have seen that even like, for example, as I've told you, that sustainability reporting has to be done by only top 500 listed companies. But we have actually given a sort of a big narrative even to small companies also to publish their sustainability reporting, whether they come in the ambit of this mandate or not. And you will be surprised to see that many of those SMEs who have actually published their sustainability report in the public domain on their website are actually, grown by leaps and bounds, because most of these B2B entities, and as we have seen, most of the global, players, they actually do a lot of deep understanding of the organization before going for any contract. And if there is a sustainability report of the organization, it actually portrays the companies that the company is actually a responsible company. It actually care for the people, for the planet, apart from only focusing on their profits. So I think this is also one of the important research thing that we have done, and actually it has shown some good results also.
Good, right. Thank you, Dr. Saab. Thank you, Dhawan Saab, for touching yet another
good.
angle. Statistics and
Thanks a lot.
statistics and economics is my passion. I myself is statistician. I started with the statistics, and at that time, I remember I used to visit many platform, CIA, FICCI, PhD too. Why PhD more frequently? Because it was near to my residence from Lajpat Nagar. It was easy to go there, and I always used to sit in your library, and I will always used to find the insight in your report data is very research, and I am thankful to the PhD chamber for providing that to non-members also. That's good. And with this briefing, and we will continue interaction. Over to Shubham.
I once again would like to thank our esteemed speaker for the day, Dr. Jitendra Singh Ji, for taking out valuable time from his busy schedule in addressing us on today's enlightening session, how corporate organizations are using PR to drive sales and business growth. I would now like to request my colleague Akshay Chopra from Power Grid to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you very much, sir, for walking us through the activities of PSD Chamber, and it was really endearing session. And we thank you for for sparing your time and sharing your thoughts with this August gathering. I'm also thankful to the governing body members for their support. Our chairman, Shri Naresh Kumar, our secretary, Shri S.S. Rao, our joint secretary, Shri Sarvesh Tiwari ji, our treasurer, Shri J.P. Sharma ji, my fellow Tanvi Singhal. I'm also thankful to our program director, Shri G.S. Babaji, our communication veterans from the governing body, Shri J.P. Dhondial ji, our K.N. Dhawan ji, Rajat Gupta ji, and Shri Jitendra Bakshi ji. Before we close, I would like to extend my thanks to each one of you. And this series is brought to you by PR Society Delhi, whose registered name is Public Relations Society of Delhi, India Delhi chapter. And I request you all to be ready for another volume of Next Gen Ideas Exchange series, which will happen at the same time on the same platform with new speakers.